This is Good Karma Wrestling. Welcome to another edition of GKW. I'm Gabe Neitzel from ESPN Milwaukee. With me, as always, from ESPN West Palm, Brian Rowitz. And you can catch him on ESPN 1000 in Chicago, who is still bleeding. Good thing he's wearing the black shirt instead of the white trunks that the FTR boys decided to go to with all the blood in that match. Jonathan Hood from ESPN 1000 in Chicago. We will get to ROH. We will get to WWE. We will get to AEW. But the biggest news right now going on in the wrestling world is the potential return of Vince McMahon. I thought we were done with this. I thought he had retired. But rumors and reports are out there that he feels that he was given bad advice and that he thinks that his allegations would have blown over with time. He would have been fine. And now there are reports of Vince potentially looking to get back into power at WWE. Gentlemen, what were your initial thoughts when you first saw the story about Vince wanting to come back and run things in WWE?
Well, the first thing is that if you watch that Vice documentary, and if you're already on the inside knowing what's going on with Vince, that was a huge disappointment.
It was so bad.
I mean, listen, it's
so
like
bad.
Here's a piece from Dark Side, another piece from Dark Side, another piece from Dark Side. It should have been labeled Vince McMahon through the eyes of Vince Russo. Because
he was the best of Dark Side. That's all.
It was the best. Constantly in the upper right-hand corner, they were like crediting different Dark Side of the Ring like shows. Like, what are we doing? Like, none of this is original. You just clipped together old shows and pretended this is new.
I know.
Got 100,000 people though, so it worked.
Yes, barely eclipsing Impact. Yeah, good job there. It was great to hear Vince Russo's thoughts about Vince McMahon. That's what that was, right? Bro, he was a genius, bro. Now to Dark Side of the Ring. Bro, I'm telling you, bro, the Attitude Era was the greatest, bro. Now to Dark Side. I mean, that's what it was. And
they didn't even keep a consistent timeline. Like, they jumped all over the 90s. They went forward to 99, went back to 94. All right, but that's not what we're talking about. I'm sorry, Jay.
No, we had to take a shot because if you don't know anything about Vince, that was very interesting to you if you saw that for the first time. But for us, it's like, is there anything new? And what's new is that there's new allegations that are out there that's going to come out about Vince McMahon through the Wall Street Journal. And just because Vince McMahon is such a fighter and just wants to be able to push back on this is why the rumor and innuendos out there that Vince wants to come back. And I think that if you are, first of all, a stockholder, if you are on the board of directors of WWE, you're probably thinking, why would you want that mess back in Stamford, Connecticut? There's no need for it, guys. And so I'm sure that he's bored. I'm sure that he wants to get back in there, but all the allegations trail him. Things are working very well for the WWE. Everything that we read, everything I hear is that it is harmonious there. People love what's happening with WWE post Vince, and for him to return, that wouldn't be a good idea, bro. It's especially when things are going in the right direction for the WWE.
And I think the publicly traded part is the important part. Meltzer did mention in the documentary, there are times if you say something to Vince that isn't true, he's coming after you. All this stuff, he's just sort of quiet on. It's like, oh, yeah, that one too. Like, oh, yeah, I remember that. And Meltzer does note that Vince still has voting power, but because they are publicly traded, that ultimately doesn't mean anything because he can be overrode. But rich old people don't like being told what to do. That's what this comes down to. We know he didn't want to go out. We know he went out kicking and screaming. Now he thinks, hey, I've done my time. Let me back at it. There's no way this is ever going to happen. It's nice that he wants to, but at this point, I feel like it's more likely he just starts another company at this point.
Yeah, I don't know who it's nice for that he wants to, right? I don't know who it would be nice for. I have enjoyed the product better since Triple H has taken over. And I know we'll dive into some Triple H era stuff because Raw didn't do a great number this past week. I don't think that's necessarily Hunter's fault. But it's amazing. Since he left, we were so high on AEW coming out of Double or Nothing. Really high. Okay, this thing really has some momentum. And the second half of the year, AEW to me is kind of, they've kind of coasted a little bit, where WWE, this invigorated some things. This really, with Triple H taking over, it really gave people hope for, WWE kind of turning some of the inconsistencies around within WWE. And I just don't see this actually happening. I'll give it, because it's Vince, I'll give it a 10% chance, because it's Vince, and maybe Stephanie and Hunter and Nick Khan feel like we got, it's Vince, so we got to do whatever we can to help him out and get him back in. But why would, and you talk about board of directors and stockholders and all that, but most of their money comes, like most sports leagues, through TV deals. You think USA and Fox want to associate themselves with somebody who is going to be going through what Vince is going to be going through with some of the lawsuits that he's facing? I just don't see NBC Universal, and I don't see Fox standing behind WWE. And that's, now all of a sudden the board of directors goes, no, you stay away, because you are going to cost us so much money.
To go a little bit deeper in the weeds, so Vince McMahon is part of the board of directors for WWE. But the point is, though, is that when they go to a vote again, they have to vote on whether or not they think that Vince is good for WWE and for him to be back into power. And so the question, bro, is like, who are Vince's allies? So there's Vince and Stephanie, but do you want that back? You want him back? Kevin Dunn, the executive producer, also an ally. Bruce Pritchard, also an ally in that company. But the thing is that if you're Paul Levesque, if you're Triple H, you're thinking, well, this is mine now. I'm running it. Like I can always use you for a sounding board. I can always use you for advice. But to have you around, and here's the difference. And again, we want to underline this, guys. It's a publicly traded company. You can't screw around here in the era of Me Too, and and clearly in this era, to have a guy like that around, to have him around. And there's more to come. It's not just Rita Chatterton, the referee. We talked about this earlier in the year about the lawsuit there that was going on with her, a former WWE, the first WWE female referee, accusing Vince of rape in the back of a limo. I mean, there's more to come here. And so because that's coming, Vince might want to come back. Sure, he might want that, but still, it's not good for business at all.
Right. And it's not like it's a one-off where it's like one person, you're like, oh, well, let's presume innocent, innocent until proven guilty. There are a lot of allegations. And when you have that money, which is essentially hush money, the assumption is that means he did something wrong. It's an admission of guilt at times. I do wonder, though, you mentioned him having his allies and being a sounding board. I wonder how many times those conversations have happened. Like, is Hunter or Stephanie calling him saying, like, hey, how should we do this? Hey, how should we do that? And is there a possibility down the line that we see Vince in control, but we don't know it, where he's almost doing it behind the scenes, where he's not at Raw and sitting in Gorilla every Monday, but he still has such an impact on the show that all of a sudden it sort of feeds his ego and says, okay, I'm still running this thing right now.
I just don't. I don't see Vince's ego allowing that. Do you? Like, if Vince gets involved again, he's not going to be this puppet master behind the scenes. Right. No, he's going to want to let everybody. Maybe he doesn't need to be on television like he was, 20 years ago. But he's still going to want people. He wants people to know, hey, I'm back at the helm here. Mm-hmm. And maybe because the public perception out there, at least I believe, is that WWE is in a better place without him. My guess is that's a major blow to his ego. Oh, you think it's better without me? Let me show you. and he wants to get back into power partially because of that as well. I could see that being the case. But I have a hard time imagining a scenario where he just decides to quietly be the puppet master behind the scene, because that just doesn't fit anything that we know about Vince McMahon at all.
There'll be a section of the audience that will be turned off if they found out that Vince was still in power in some way, shape, or form. I mean, simply, it's what it is. One thing from that documentary we got to pull out, though, and again, these are for those that don't know. Did you notice when they talked about him earlier in his career, when he was trying to fund the Evel Knievel thing, like a closed circuit pay-per-view thing? Come see Evel Knievel in this great flight that he's going to have, and it fizzled out and was awful. I mean, everything that Vince has tried outside of wrestling has failed. Yeah. Now, I give him full credit for trying to have a football league or the World Bodybuilding Federation and all these other things that he's tried. He's tried, but he's failed. And I know that for him, he feels unfulfilled. Like, I'm just a wrestling promoter like my dad, because his dad I think he did the Globetrotters. I think that he promoted wrestling for sure, maybe a little boxing as well. But Vince's niche is wrestling. And I know that makes him unsettled, that he hasn't been able to really be successful in anything else besides wrestling. Or
you don't think he's going to go back into the movie industry? I mean, you like any of those WWE films? Can you list your top 5 favorite ones?
Oh yeah, Marine 1, Marine 2, Marine 3, Marine 4, Marine 5. There we go.
Oh, okay. Got it.
He got you. You see that?
Wait, isn't there one with Triple H in a school bus? I feel like where he has something to do with kids.
Yes.
I've never seen it. I just remember seeing like the poster of being promoted and Triple H being on like the movie poster with the school bus. That's all I can remember.
He had like a Brock Lesnar kind of like lumberjack top. Do you remember that with his
Yeah.
arms out?
Uh-huh.
I don't remember the name of the movie though. It's kind of like that Suburban Commando 2, Electric Boogaloo. Was it? I don't know. I'm not sure.
No, I gotta look this up right now. I'm gonna try to find it. Talks amongst yourselves. This is
There's a
gonna
Kane
bother me
horror
for the rest of
film.
the show.
Gabe
I
won't be
remember
able to
seeing-
sleep.
Yeah, that was in the documentary. So the Kane horror film. But like that's the thing. Like there's nothing else you can do. Like you're an older guy at this point, and like yes, there's gonna be a market that somehow will take you in. But like he needs to accept at this point. Like you went public. Like it is what it is. Like yes, his ego is why he wants to go back, but
Yep.
it's done. I think it's time to accept that already.
The Chaperone, by the way. The
Ah.
Chaperone is the name of the 2011 crime comedy film produced by WWE Studios, starring
got
Triple H.
I got an idea, pal. The Chaperone. And then from there. I mean,
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's exactly the movie poster I was thinking of Triple H just standing there like this and the school bus behind him.
what was his shirt? Did he have a shirt? Did he have like a mustard? Is there a
Yeah,
shirt
so
there?
yeah, so like I'll see if I can. I don't know if we can. This is going to be great here, but that's
Ah, there it is.
yeah.
There it is.
You
Like a
know,
big-
it's just the shirt's rolled up to really show off the biceps.
That's right. He looks like a big jacked up mechanic. Outstanding. Love it. So there it is. Vince had a movie house and he's a wrestling promoter. And I think that bothers him greatly. So I don't know where he is in Connecticut, Florida, someplace. And he's just champing at the bit to try to figure out like, what else can I do with my life? Hey man, how about relax with your girlfriends, or whatever the heck that you're doing. Why don't you do that? How about
Yeah,
that?
that doesn't seem like that's something he's capable of, right? Like, honestly, I'm surprised it took this long for this story to come out.
I mean,
Like,
it's been
of
5
Vince
months.
thinking about he wanted to come back, like, right? Like this we knew this story was going to happen eventually of Vince thinking he's going to try to work his way back. Again, I don't think he's actually going to do it, or he'll be unsuccessful in his attempts. But it's not shocking that this has become a story.
The quote was this week is that he had bad advice from someone to walk away. And I don't know who that is, but he had bad advice. What bad advice? You see what's going on? See, he acts like he's oblivious, but all these sharks are around him that he was able to cause. He caused these issues. He's involved in these issues, and he thought he could just be able to pay this stuff away, and that's not the case.
Right.
The WWE is better without him. I'll say this, at times it looks like Vince booking, especially over the last few weeks on the Raw and SmackDown, where you got skit here, skit there, in the ring, talk segment here, and there's very little wrestling. It reminds me of Vince in some ways, but I think that Triple H has a good hold on the future of this business for WWE.
But I think that's part of the ego thing. Like they talked about it when everyone started jumping ship to WCW. All of a sudden, he played the victim. It's like, they're stealing all my guys. So like it's that. Like when you're that big and powerful, you can do no wrong. You believe the story. You believe who you are, and that's what this is. Like, oh no, they gave me bad advice. That guy told me I should leave. I should have never left. Like I would have overcome all this. It's like, no, it's been 5 months and you've done bad things, and that's why you're not in charge anymore.
Yeah.
We'll keep an eye on the story because it's certainly not the last time we've heard from Vincent Kennedy McMahon. We move on to our other top stories in the world of wrestling. We like to call it the 3 counts. What do we have at number 1 this week?
Saturday night, Tony Khan announced after Ring of Honor Final Battle that Ring of Honor's weekly show will air on Honor Club. No information on when the show will start. Says New Japan will also play a role. It'll be $9.99 a month. Pay-per-views not included right away. They will be on there 90 days after they air. So, guys, what do you make of the Ring of Honor? We'll call it a TV deal.
It's so underwhelming. Like this announcement was so underwhelming. Like we finally, Tony Khan teased like, oh, hey, Saturday, tune in. We're going to have this, we're going to ROH. It's not going to be as ingrained in AEW anymore. And all they could get for it was something that already existed. That's where the library for ROH exists. Honor Club has been a thing in the past. And I don't know if $9.99 is I don't know if I'm going to be spending $10 a month to watch a weekly ROH show. It doesn't seem that intriguing to me, especially if it ends up being what he's teased his vision of ROH being. Because when he initially, if you remember, when he initially acquired Ring of Honor, he had one of those press conferences and they were talking about, at the time, NXT 2.0 versus the black and yellow brand. And he said, hey, we all love black and yellow, but for what WWE wants to do, 2.0 makes more sense of trying to develop their guys. So if ROH is supposed to be the NXT of AEW and be the developmental, yeah, I probably don't need to be spending $10 a month to kind of tune into their weekly show. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't have value, because it certainly does. But I was very underwhelmed by this announcement on Saturday.
Well, to that point, real fast, Gabe, like I remember it because it was after Revolution, which was in Orlando. So sitting there in the room, he almost like polled the room. He said, hey, which NXT does everyone think is better? And everyone's like, oh, the black and yellow. And then he said, which one do you think is better for WWE development? And everyone's like, oh, 2.0. And he's like, well, that's sort of what Ring of Honor will be, which at that time led to a lot of groans where it's like, oh, but no one likes 2.0. Like, why do we want to watch that?
Here's what I think, guys. And I tried to make some calls on this. And I can't get anything about our Ring of Honor as far as information, but I'll say this. Tell me if you think this is a possibility. When Chris Jericho was Ring of Honor champion, I think that they were trying to sell the fact that, hey, we have Ring of Honor and we've got Chris Jericho as our champion, to the point where if he goes to TV stations or networks and says, our face of Ring of Honor is going to be Chris Jericho. Oh, from the old WWE TV? That's interesting. Because this is no shot at Claudio Castagnoli. But the point is, though, is that if you have a choice between Claudio and Chris Jericho, people that kind of know wrestling, a little bit outside the wrestling bubble, know who Chris Jericho is. Mm-hmm. And so this is also the selling point for AEW originally, right? Yeah, you might know the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega internationally, but you got Chris Jericho? Oh, we're definitely in, right? I think that was one of the selling points for Warner Media, to know that Chris Jericho was part of it, a former WWE talent. So I really believe that during that time, I believe that Tony Khan probably went to TV networks and said, Chris Jericho's our champion. Look at this guy. He's trying to reimagine Ring of Honor. And he just couldn't get it to work. But my question is that, so you can find a TV network, but yet Jeannie Buss found Women of Wrestling on CW and doing well? You can go to them, for an hour show? You see, I'm not paying $9.99 for it. I'm sure there's going to be some banger pay-per-views that I'll watch, but I'm not paying $9.99. It's a week, right?
No, that's a month. $9.99 a month. So it would come out if they do 4 pay-per-views. It's $260 for the year. If you spend monthly and then order all 4 pay-per-views, that's $260.
See, here's what's interesting. You, bro, got a chance to see Ring of Honor TV in West Palm. Mm-hmm. And Gabe, you saw it in Milwaukee on the regional syndicate, on the Sinclair stations.
Yep.
We never got it in Chicago.
Really?
I never saw it because there was no Sinclair station in Chicago to be able to watch Ring of Honor. You guys watched it weekly. I never saw it. So with this Honor Club, it's like, okay, so now the consumer has to think, Peacock, Paramount, Disney Plus, Ring of Honor Club. Do I really want to get this too? So you got to decide from a money standpoint. Do you want to be able to order this? And then what are you getting? You're getting an hour show out of Disney.
Right.
That's what it is. They're going to emanate from Disney, right?
Uh-huh. Yep, probably from Universal. Yeah. And also you talk about the budgeting. Like, you're also paying for AEW pay-per-views every few months. So it's another thing you're spending on wrestling-wise. And, we talk about Vince being successful. The way the network model was and the fact that pay-per-views are included, he sort of spoiled us wrestling fans. Where you're like, I don't really want to spend on wrestling anymore. And AEW has been good enough to where we spend on the pay-per-views you want to. But the fact that the pay-per-views aren't included in this, I don't see how this is being successful. But I think it also boils down to the fact that he almost cracked on YouTube. We're like, Ring of Honor is too good for a YouTube show. Then no TV deal comes through, and it's like, well, I can't go to YouTube at this point. What else can I do? And there's Honor Club.
Yeah, it's going to be for the most diehard of diehard fans, right? Like that's who's going to subscribe $9.99 a month, because I think that's more than Disney Plus. To bring it up, Disney Plus, like right. Think of all the things you get when you order Disney Plus and everything that Disney has their umbrella that they put on that streaming service. And I understand that, they're going to have the library and you're going to have access to the pay-per-views 90 days after, and maybe there's a New Japan Pro Wrestling thing on it, because that was thin on details, and he was very mysterious about it, the way he kind of talked about it. Oh, you got to wait till Wrestle Kingdom. Going to have some more announcements there. But even if New Japan is somehow involved in this, I can't imagine it's going to draw that many more people at $9.99 a month. Like, the entry point, it's just too much with the pay-per-views that they have, plus AEW pay-per-views. Like, you're going to be making decisions if you're a wrestling fan of what you want to be watching. Whereas WWE, you don't have to make those decisions. Like, you get, for $9.99, you're getting Peacock, which gets wrestling and everything else that Peacock has to offer.
Well, I'll throw this back at you guys. Do you think he regrets buying Ring of Honor?
No, because he had to block WWE from buying it.
But was he just doing that to make Punk happy?
No, I honestly believe that he wants to be able to build a library of his own. That's another thing. Like with AEW, I'd love to see those banger matches, but they don't have the library or like the AEW network or AEW app for me to go back and watch those great matches. He did that as a play to block Hunter from getting it in WWE. That's what I believe. And it's a smart play. The only thing is, guys, is that when it comes to nostalgia in the library, and we should go into this as well, you know, WWE with Peacock, they're looking at this old stuff, and I've heard about this last couple of weeks. They're like, people are just not watching the old stuff. We're just going to start taking it down. The Mid-South, the NWA, Florida Championship Wrestling. All of a sudden, it's like, now I like that stuff because if someone mentions, hey, did you ever see this match? I can go back and watch it, right?
Right.
But this is what is killing Peacock today. Like, Peacock's losing over, you know, almost $1 billion because people don't want to see, you know, old reruns of whatever TV shows from the 80s and 90s. They thought that the nostalgia would hold people. And it's like, no, I'm not going to watch that. So even in the WWE, no. So the reason I mention this is because for Ring of Honor, they think they want to see Danielson against Punk from Dayton, Ohio. It's like, yeah, I don't want to see that. People don't want to see the nostalgia. They want to see what's happening today.
And
so I don't know the value of the library if no one wants to see it. That's my point.
And I think to that point, though, like Gabe, you talk about like financial investment, but there's a time investment also. Like live wrestling between WWE and AEW, that's 8 hours of TV a week. If you want to watch Impact, if you want to watch MLW, if you want to watch NWA, there's a lot of other live stuff every week that can take up a lot of time. So who is going back to watch some of those older shows? So like, why would someone sort of spend that time on it? It's just odd. And like the fact that you're not including the pay-per-views, it feels like they were sort of waving the white flag on Saturday night, taking the belt off Jericho, putting the belts on the Briscoes, who they can't get on TV. Like, it felt like a lot of like, well, we can't be on TV. Let's just, you know, be developmental. Like, congrats, Briscoes. You get to be the champs now.
But I don't know what the long-term play is with the Briscoes, because the Briscoes aren't developmental. They've been around for a while, right? But if you can't put them on TV, I don't understand the purpose of necessarily having them. I understand their brand. Maybe they attract some people to Honor Club. Yeah, I agree with you where it kind of, okay, yeah, we didn't get the TV deal. Let's put it back on Claudio. Let's kind of have all these different title changes on the show. But they needed to include, I think, the pay-per-views. If the pay-per-views are included in this, suddenly it's interesting, right? So now, well, I'm probably going to spend, they got 3 pay-per-views a year. I'm probably going to be spending the $120 on that anyway. So why don't I just spend the $10 a month and get everything else that's included and maybe check in on the show from time to time? Like, you have to be able to, you know, appeal to your fan base. And I just can't see this thing being all that successful.
And I think also the fact, like, we've talked about how lack of storytelling sort of hurts pay-per-views. The Ring of Honor shows would just sort of pop up. Like, all of a sudden it's 2 weeks out. It's like, hey, Ring of Honor pay-per-view in 2 weeks. We're like, oh, okay. And then those shows, they deliver. Like, Saturday was a really fun show. It's a great wrestling show. And that was with no development. So, like, you watch a show like that and you're like, do I need to spend $10 a month to get that development, to get even more interested? Or can I just enjoy this wrestling show? And they've sort of proven, hey, let's just enjoy wrestling.
The development for the best match on the card was a different tag team showing up 4 days before the pay-per-view, issuing a challenge with dog collars. That was the development for the best match on the card.
Yeah, you know, I don't think that Ring of Honor is going to be a developmental organization. I don't even know why that. I'm sure that there's something Tony Khan talked about, like as you mentioned, NXT 2.0, bro. It's not. That's not what this is. There's too many veterans at least based on what we see on AEW TV. I see a bunch of veterans there. Like, this is not going to be just that's what AEW Dark is for, isn't it? Just to be able to get developmental guys. So like I said, it does not appeal to me, and it's too bad. All three of us enjoy Samoa Joe. We all like the Briscoes. We all respect Claudio. I'm just not paying extra to see him in front of 100 people in Orlando at Disney. Because if that's the weekly show, I'm not interested in that.
Well, and also, aren't we seeing those guys on Wednesday and Friday?
Yes, we are.
So, like, that's another reason we're like, outside of the Briscoes, we're probably going to see all these guys still.
Like, let's just take a look at the ROH current champions. Like, none of them are developmental. Claudio's not developmental. Athena's been around for a while. Briscoes, obviously. Who just won Trios champions?
The Embassy.
With Brian Cage. The Embassy with Brian Cage. Like, those guys have been established for a long time. And then Samoa Joe. Like, nobody there is like a young developmental champion other than Wheeler Yuta. Like, you could maybe talk about Wheeler Yuta being that as the pure champion right now.
Now, imagine again, if you found a network, some network, where people could say, yeah, I'm going to tune into this every week because it's different than WWE or AEW. It's just a different, and this is where you're missing it, man. You're putting it behind a paywall of something I've never had, by the way. I've never had the Ring of Honor Club. I've never had it. And I don't see myself getting it now. Broets, you get into the Good Karma Fund, you watch it every week. You report on it. We're not watching. Listen, Gabe and I are too busy. We don't have time for this.
No, I agree. The financial thing. Like, if you could write a letter to my wife saying, like, hey, I need to spend another $250, then maybe I can pull it off. But, like, I agree. Like, I don't know how to pull it off otherwise.
It's like, nothing, and this is nothing against the talent. It's just like, I really believe that they were shopping it. Just like, hey, Jericho's our champion. What do you think? More wrestling. I don't know. And then, of course, we're trying to figure out online. People were going back at me on GKW_wrestling about what time it would be. Because think about it, like, where's the open slot for wrestling in Prime between 8 and 11 Eastern and Pacific? Like, that's tough. Where are you putting it?
Yeah, I mean, it would have to, again, if they could have somehow found a deal the way, and I understand Sinclair used to own it, so it was easy for them just to put it on their stations as programming, and it wasn't necessarily accessible to everyone, but it was on, like, it would be on a different time for me here in Milwaukee versus Brian down in Florida. Like, there are just times where I'm flipping through channels like, oh, I guess Ring of Honor's on, and it's, 7 o'clock at night, or it's 2 p.m. on a Saturday. It was very inconsistent, but at least you could set your DVR and watch it. If they could come with a deal, or you talk about the women of wrestling, and with Jeannie Buss and what she's been doing. Like, yeah, that is going to be inconsistent times as well. But if you set your DVR, you can still catch it on a weekly basis.
I think all three of us have it at different times. If you go to your DVR and look at it, I think it's 6 o'clock Central on Saturday nights on the CW network in Chicago. And it might be different for you guys too, but
I feel it's Saturday afternoon for us, a little bit earlier than 6.
Is it really?
Yeah.
See,
yeah,
I think on noon Eastern. Yeah, because I always remember when, like, you're flipping through looking for college football games, you're like, oh, there's wrestling. Like, it was just very confusing always.
According to WrestleNomics is doing very well. It's beating Impact. I know it's another Impact joke, but it's actually true. They're beating Impact. So that means that Mrs. CM Punk is doing well in creative for that.
Yeah, I mean, well, we're going to have our award show next week. The way you're just ripping into Impact, I figured you're going to have Impact as your promotion of the year. So this is going to be a major upset, the way you're just absolutely just ripping apart Impact this week. This is different from you.
Wrestling moment of the year where Bobby Fish says, "Where's the lie?" and nobody responds in front of nobody in Louisville. Where's the lie, everybody? Hello, yellow. That's outstanding.
What do we got at number 2 on the 3 count, Brian?
All right, we talked about NXT 2.0. Well, Tuesday night, the 413-day run as NXT Women's Champion was ended by Mandy Rose, dropping it to Roxanne Perez. The next day, Fightful reports that WWE has released Mandy Rose. Reports say the officials were put in a tough spot due to content she was posting on Fan Time, a site similar to OnlyFans. Was the WWE right to release Mandy Rose?
So I'm going to work Vince back into this as well. What are you doing down there, Jay?
Oh, please go right ahead. Don't mind me.
So if they're releasing Mandy Rose because of racy photos,
Please don't mind me.
If
Go right
they
ahead.
are releasing Mandy Rose because of racy photos that she posted behind a paywall site, like, how in the world do you let Vince McMahon back? Like, how do you how can you balance both of those things? And from some of the reports that I saw, that this was a last-minute decision to take the belt off her on Tuesday, then release her on Wednesday, that somebody had come to HBK with this, and they kind of earlier on Tuesday, and they kind of came up with this plan to get the belt off of her, surprisingly, on Tuesday night on NXT. WWE has tried to be more family-friendly. Now, I think we've heard rumors about them being more PG-13 or TV-14 and going back to some edgier stuff that has never come to fruition. Those rumors earlier this year hasn't happened yet. So if they're still trying to put out there that, hey, we're this family-friendly product, then I understand why they released Mandy Rose. And additionally, and whether you like it or not, like, they've got they have their own rule that other wrestlers got in trouble for about posting content that's not approved on other websites, whether it's a YouTube page, because that was a big thing with the New Day in them wanting to continue their up, down, down page, mostly Xavier Woods. So this has been a thing within the WWE. So the more you dig into it, the less shocking that it is that Mandy Rose was released, at least for me.
So, I mean, this is no surprise. I think you laid it out perfectly. She has her own page, and the WWE says you're a little bit too scantily clad. You're not necessarily PG the way we want you to be, so you got to be able to take it down. She said no. And you know what? The way Mandy Rose has been performing over the last year, I got to give her credit, because she was I didn't think she was very good. And I think that she's really, not just because she looks great, I think her wrestling has gotten much better. Just from clips that I've seen, we just saw her not too long ago in one of these shows where she looked really good. I'm telling you, bro, I think that she can go into independence if she wants to and be able to do well. And she's not just some WWE superstar that's just going out there rolling around on the mat. She actually has improved over the last year plus. And so if I could see her coming back at some point, but I'm sure that she could be really red hot in the indies right now. I believe the original price, you tell me, I might have this wrong, was $9.99 or was it $20? I think she raised the price on that fan site now because she knows she's in hot demand, because now everybody knows about it.
Well, that's the thing. So from a wrestling standpoint, I wonder how much that played in her mind, where first saying like, oh, you know what? I can go now. Like, there are things I can do. Toni Storm, when she left the WWE, she went on Jericho's podcast. She says when she was on the main roster working for Vince, she was making more money on her OnlyFans page. And her OnlyFans page was, we'll call it PG-13, whereas Mandy's is, X-rated essentially. So she was making good money doing that, and she had her clothes on. So Mandy's probably making all this money, and all of a sudden things like, you know what, I'm a decent wrestler now. So in her mind, it's like, yeah, whatever. Like, yeah, you're violating contract. And it's weird seeing the social media reaction of the, free Mandy Rose, rehire Mandy Rose. Like, she still violated a contract. They're telling you, hey, you can't do this. Hey, there's Mattel out there. There's a toy of you. You can't do this. And she still does it. She can't really play the victim card. But, in the end, it'll probably work out for her. And it was weird to just sort of see the reaction this week.
Yeah. I think she'll do well, Gabe. I really do. But again, it comes back around. They'll come to a negotiation. And it'll work out well. The leader of Phantasmo,
Zelina Vega.
Zelina Vega. She left and came back because they came to an agreement. And so I think that'll happen again. But Mandy should try her luck, man. Go on out there and see what's out there. And I think that she'll be making money hand over fist. I think she'll be surprised at how much money she can make away from the WWE.
Well, you mentioned Zelina, like that should be sort of the example. Like that was something as simple as having a Twitch page. Like that was her playing video games and talking to people. And they're like, no, you can't do that. Like, so she shouldn't have been shocked. I know the report said that she was sort of shocked because they moved up the title thing. It was a little anticlimactic because they put so much into that title run, but it was a good match on Tuesday, and it like got my reaction. I was like, oh, a title change, that's sort of a big deal. But like, she shouldn't be surprised that she was let go.
No, I don't think so. Because again, this has been something that's been out there, and I know Triple H has been a little bit more relaxed on that rule versus Vince, right? Like, again, because you go back to Zelina Vega and a Twitch page, like you're going, how can you not just allow them let her play video games, man. Let her talk to people. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And so Triple H has been a little bit more lax. But again, if you want to be this, this PG company, it's not the Attitude Era where they were cool with Sable going out there and posing for Playboy. Like, it's a lot different now, 20 years later. Okay. No, I mean, we know you've seen that one, Jay Hood. Like, everybody has seen that one. Everyone's aware.
It's nostalgia, pal. No, or like Sunny was like the most downloaded female of all time, I guess, at the time, when she was in WWE. But but bro, it's hit it right, man. It's the rule. The rule is that's not what you're supposed to do. And she was like, no, I'm not taking it down. So they said, okay, you're fired. I think from a wrestling standpoint, it's weird that she's like had this Roman Reigns like run with that NXT championship.
Right?
Yes.
It's like where's the bottom line here where it says, is Mandy Rose one of the greatest women wrestlers of all time? My God, they had a fabulous Moolah-like run with the championship. It's weird.
And also, it felt like they were. I know you guys aren't watching, and I just sort of watched in passing. They were setting up what felt like something with her and Nikki Bella. Like, she's been wearing Nikki Bella stuff the last few weeks.
Which Bella is that? Is that the one that's on NBC?
Not
with
Brian's.
No, the one that was engaged to Cena.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Cena being a dick to her. I saw that video just recently. I saw that recently, like Cena being a heel. Did you see that, bro?
I just saw it this week. I never would watch Total Divas, of course.
No, I just saw a clip of that of like she was cooking dinners and he was like, yeah, I thought we were going out. Yeah. No, I want to make you a meal, John. Yeah, this sucks. Doesn't taste good. Cena, where's that guy all my life? Cena, the heel. No wonder they broke up. What a bad guy. She's trying to make a home-cooked meal in this big kitchen.
He's just out.
He no-sold it, yeah. That's where he was the heel, Total Divas.
She was like, I thought we were going out. Oh, this is not good. And then, like, she takes the plate from him off, as he sits at the table. She's taking the plate. I'm like, wow, Cena. Wow, an everyman. How about that?
Somehow we got talking about John Cena off of Mandy Rose being released. Only on GKW can you get great contents like that. What do we have at number 3, Mr. Rhodes?
Monday Night Raw this week saw a rating coming at 1.47 million. That ties the all-time record low on USA, which was set back July 5th of 21.
What? What are we laughing at? I don't understand.
No, Broach knows what I'm laughing at.
Someone among the three of us might have had to sit through that record low show on Monday night. So, guys, what changes would you make to the Triple H era if we put this all on him?
Oh, no. Before we get that, no. Lowest rating. Give me that number again.
Just 1.47 million ties July 5th of 21. So a July 4th Monday, essentially, where most of the world was probably off celebrating the holidays still.
And of course, the WWE Raw emanated from where Monday?
A-Town, Milwaukee.
Holy crap. Oh, what a disaster of a Raw. You guys were roundly criticized for being quiet.
So here's the thing. Like, Raw wasn't actually that bad, but I will say this.
What?
Yeah,
Raw wasn't that bad.
No, it was fine. He was fine.
Adam Pearce.
What was your biggest issue with Raw? It was just like a typical Raw. Like, it wasn't anything. It wasn't a special Raw, but it was fine. I don't think it was. It was. I will tell you this: it is certainly not the worst Monday Night Raw I have been to in Milwaukee.
All right.
What does that
low
mean?
bar, I guess. That's good.
Milwaukee is the place where Dean Ambrose / John Moxley had pretty much decided he wasn't coming back, because that's when he was a heel. And he was shown in the doctor's office getting the shot because he had to be, vaccinated against all the dirty fans, and he had the mask, and that was the worst Monday Night Raw I'd ever been to, in Milwaukee. That one was terrible. That was god awful. I couldn't. This one was fine. It had a lot of matches that were good. I can't really defend us as a city, as our biggest pop was probably for a hot tag for Akira Tozawa. That was kind of weird.
Brother, It was one of the worst Raw since a holiday Raw, and it happened to be in Milwaukee. No coincidence. You guys were terrible. Terrible. I didn't have to say anything. I didn't tweet anything. Bro has tweeted something.
Just put it out there.
Like people that are doing like the live Raw shows afterwards, like, what's with this Milwaukee crowd? But to your defense, what are you cheering about? That was not a great Raw. You always get the middle of the road Raw, the middle of the road SmackDown.
Yeah.
What were we supposed to cheer? Like, again, another tiny balls joke from Miz and Johnny and Johnny Wrestling? What was that also in Milwaukee? What are you supposed to do with that?
Yeah. So in terms of like, I thought we got two really pretty good women's matches because Bayley versus Alexa to start the show was great. And Rhea Ripley versus Asuka was a lot of fun to watch. Lashley versus Rollins, so I feel like we had some decent things sprinkled in throughout, but Judgment Day versus Tozawa and the Street Profits. Like, again, like one of our biggest pops of the nights was when Tozawa got the hot tag coming in toward the end of the first hour. Johnny Wrestling giving away. I wish they would do more with Gargano. I don't understand what the hell's going on, why he's just like playing second fiddle to this. He's pretty much become Dexter Lumis's mouthpiece. Like that's basically what he's become during this feud of Lumis versus The Miz.
I'll say this again.
Elias versus Solo Sikoa. Like, I mean, it was cool to see Sammy, but like, it was just a middle of the road Raw. And the problem is, in terms of the number, I think it got, like, they're not building towards anything. Like this is WWE. This is Triple H somehow now being stressed to do long-term storytelling. We just came off a stretch earlier this fall where they had like 3 pay-per-views in a 5-week stretch where it was just event. And now they've got nothing until the Royal Rumble, which they still don't know what they're doing. So they can't really start to tell any meaningful stories. So they're just kind of churning the wheels and not getting anywhere.
Also, just a note from a viewership standpoint, Monday Night Football is also lower than usual. Cardinals, Patriots. So I don't know if it's just maybe the holiday time, like people are out finishing shopping, but it is weird. And I guess to your point, Gabe, like he's essentially booking filler shows the next few weeks. Like that's why, isn't this when they used to always do like the tribute to the troops? Where it's like, no one's gonna watch it.
It is the tribute to the troops is coming up. They do. I saw that that was advertised on Raw
Saturday afternoon, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They don't care. It's just filler programming. Yep. I just get a kick out of how low that rating was and happened to be in Milwaukee. I get a kick out of that. I mean, your shit crowd in Milwaukee. It should have been in Madison. And that's where I'm just saying, like college crowd, they would have been liquored up and having some fun at Monday Night Raw. I do not. It's not Milwaukee's fault. It's Vince McMahon's fault. Because what's the difference, bro? It's in Washington D.C. and Milwaukee. They're just sitting there with their family, like, this is a really good show, and there's an arm drag takedown, and here's a drop kick. That's fun. And here comes Bianca, yay! And I'm gonna sit here and just stare. That's a Raw crowd, and I don't understand it. Like SmackDown will be here in Chicago on tomorrow, right?
You'll be there?
Not going.
What?
Not going. I'm not gonna
do your part.
I'm not in church. I'm at a wrestling event, and that's it. People are just sitting there. It's like it's so brutal. But as MVP told us, C-Town.
Yeah, he did tell us
the
that
kid behind
Monday.
I had a kid behind me who was just calling out every move. It was awesome. Like to see this little kid just him it. He's just like, oh, here it comes. Here it comes. Oh, he's going to do a superplex. Like he was super into it. And that like, I wish everybody else had the energy of that kid because then we wouldn't have been made fun of online for being such a terrible crowd. But we were awful. Like, I don't know how to change that. I don't know how to change that because like when I went to the AEW show earlier this year, like that crowd, it was sparse. Like it was not, they didn't do a very good job of promoting it, but it was a little bit more raucous. It was a little more rowdy. And maybe that's just because that's what AEW wants versus the more family atmosphere of WWE. But it's in there. Like being raucous is in there. It just wasn't there on Monday.
I mean, paint that picture though, Gabe. As you sat there through match after match, did anyone say anything in that crowd? Were they just watching?
Yeah, everyone's just watching. Every once in a while, just ooh, that was a nice flip off the top rope. Ooh,
No.
that was a very nice suplex. Did you see that?
That's the worst. You got to put it in Madison. That's enough of Milwaukee. We're
getting a house show in March.
Oh,
because they always announce when the next one's coming back whenever you're at one of these things. So we're getting a house show in March.
I got an email about that. I got an email that you're going to have a house show. Should be in Madison. What do you think, bro? That's enough. But it's not Milwaukee's fault. I give them a hard time, but it's just like that's the typical McMahon era crowd where you're just supposed to sit there and watch. Hey man, it's Milwaukee. Somebody wants to see somebody bleed. It's Milwaukee.
Right. That's the thing. There's nothing to cheer about. You mentioned Gargano. I said it last week. I'll say it again. If this were Vince booking, we would be ripping him the way he'd be booking Johnny Gargano. We're sort of giving Hunter the benefit of the doubt. And oh yeah, it's silly that Gargano's throwing out merchandise with Lumis right now, but he's essentially doing nothing. He's being a manager, almost Vince wanted to call up some guys I don't know, we'll call him Adam Cole maybe, and just to be a manager. That's essentially what Gargano's doing right now. And there's nothing to cheer for on Mondays.
So the biggest issue right now in the Triple H era is it seems like Hunter wants to do long-term storytelling, but he can't do it. He hasn't figured out how to do it yet. AEW figures it out, right? AEW has 4 pay-per-views a year. So you should be able to figure this out. But the problem is that the two names that we keep hearing rumored that could potentially win the Royal Rumble, one's a part-timer in Hollywood that you're still trying to convince, and the other one's injured that you're hoping can be back in time with Cody Rhodes. And so right now you're just in limbo. You can't start building. So again, it's just kind of, it's the holidays. We're not really building towards anything. We got a part-time champ. We've got 2 number 1 contender matches. Does that interest you? But what are the number 1 contender matches for the U.S. bleeping title? It's
and
Triple
even
H,
that they had to
need to figure out.
They did the whole "you're fired." They called an audible. They did the whole "you're fired" thing with Lashley. Then reportedly, he's not fired because they don't want it to get mixed up with the Mandy Rose stuff. Who's actually fired?
When keeping it real goes wrong,
right?
That's what just happened.
Long live kayfabe.
Mandy Rose is really fired, and then you got the general manager said "mother bleeper" on the air. By the way, it's whoa, scrap iron.
There's your edginess. How about that?
Adam Pearce.
Yeah, well, we would have popped for that. We did not get to hear that in the arena. Had we heard Mr. Pearce yell "mother bleeper," we would have popped for that. I guarantee it.
I agree with that. Yes. You know what? It's going to sound redundant to answer the question, but ultimately the changes that's got to be made is to find real contenders. Listen, maybe the Triple H era really begins when they find real contenders or someone that could take the titles off of the Usos and Roman.
Yeah.
See that to me, that's what it comes down to, is that until you are able to go into the AEW roster and take some of those guys, or find someone from Japan, or try to shine up someone that's on your roster and make them a serious contender, then there are no changes to be made. I just don't understand how 98% of your roster are just contenders, or just guys that are just doing, men and women are just doing house shows. Nobody's a real contender. Kevin Owens is not really a contender.
Nope.
And I appreciate the matches from Gunther, and I appreciate what they're trying to do with the U.S. title. It's kind of a little bit murky, but still, at least it's something. But at the same time, though, if you don't have real contenders lined up, even MJF's got contenders lined up now. Even he has a top 10 that we all could see, yep, that guy, maybe some from ROH. There's some matchups that we could see. Where are the matchups for the Usos or for Roman Reigns? Once we are able to determine who the real contenders are that can seriously take those titles, then it's going to stay stagnant.
Yeah, it's the exact same situation. And I know we defended Triple H in the fact that he was put in this corner when you have both world titles on the same guy who's also going to a part-time schedule. That works against him. And even the wrestling seems to be taking a step backwards, guys going through the same motions. AJ Styles versus Gable, that was a good match. Gable, every time he's in the ring, is a good match, but 99% of the time, he's going to lose that match. And I know they sort of operate like wins and losses don't matter, but they do. When you're watching that guy lose every single week, there's no point in you you know what? Maybe Gable's a contender because, like, no, he's just out there to be a jobber for someone, and like that's what's hurting their product right now.
Well, they could shine up AJ, but like they don't put him consistently enough in the ring. And here's the other thing. So Triple H, I think, was able to survive for a little bit because he put the new talent in. He was injecting it, and who's going to show up this week? And now that's kind of settled down. But of all the people that he's brought back, who's still relevant?
I don't know if that Russell Votes story from this week is true, that Triple H is disenchanted with some of the guys he brought back. I don't know if that's true or not. I saw the same thing we all saw here. So is he mad at Hit Row? Because can I just tell you, I never talked about it before with you. I don't get it. I don't I don't know what
they're not doing much. Like Cross is just sort of there. Braun said what's up to Gable on Friday. They had a fun backstage segment.
But Karrion Kross is the big one to me, because when Karrion Kross initially showed up, it seemed like he was getting in line to face Roman Reigns, right? Like he was intertwined with Drew McIntyre as they were trying to build around Clash Around the Castle, and it seemed like Kross was going to be that guy. Oh, okay, here's a new exciting challenger. Here we go, and nothing since. Like he's kind of fallen flat. So if Karrion Kross was on that list, it wouldn't shock me, just based on it looked like he was going to get a rocket up his ass to shoot him to the top, and now he's just kind of in the mid card. Yeah. And by the way, Bray Wyatt, like, pick it. Yeah, I've said this before. Pick up the damn pace. You got to figure it out. Like, and the crowd was ready to pop when they thought that Alexa Bliss was going to deliver the Sister Abigail on Bianca Belair, but then she's like, "Oh, I don't know what that was." So it's like, okay, so we're gonna still like drag this out for as long as we can. And oh, by the way, if she somehow goes back to fiendish powers, faces her while she has the fiendish powers and loses, like that just kills it all right away. Like I don't know what they're doing with Bray Wyatt and whatever they're trying to build around Bray.
You had a moment there, bro. Even if it was just for a couple of months, you should have put the title on Drew at Clash of the Castle. Should have done it.
I feel like that would have been a moment that night, but like, does that carry long term?
Yeah, people like Drew McIntyre. I mean, they did, and now he's dead. He's as dead as anything else on that roster. But after Clash of the Castle killed him, because the Karrion Kross thing also wasn't a good feud. So I
think what they screwed up was just not taking a belt off Roman. Like, find a way. Like, I look back at my notes, and like the first page of this notepad from back in August, which was when Kross debuted, and the note I wrote down is like, the reports are USA wants to have a champion on Raw. So all the reports were like, oh, Karrion Kross has been brought in to bring a world title to Raw. Put it on someone to where there's something they're chasing. Even if they're not going to knock off Roman, at least there's something they're going for. And I know they're trying it with the US and the IC title, but even that, we're getting the same guys over and over again. Like, the U.S. title is just Theory, Rollins, and Lashley. Like, we've seen that already, and they're falling into that same rut. And, like, maybe it's just we need to accept nothing's happening in December. We're going to hit January. We're going to hit Rumble time. They're going to reset things. But we need to just accept nothing's happening the rest of this month in WWE programming.
That's fair. I'm just saying, like, yes, we keep saying that someone should take one or both the championships off of Roman. Who? Who have you built up since Vince has left? Who? Like, the only name I can give you is Drew McIntyre, because they built it up to the point where you believed. That's the thing. Like, they built it up like his home country. All those vignettes they did is like, you know what? He can do it. And even if he's just a temporary champion, give you something different to look at. So now the bloodline's going after Drew McIntyre, and eventually they take the title back. Not the case. Like, he's on this great run, and it's nothing against Roman. But you got to have an antagonist and a protagonist, and I just don't see that. We've seen Logan Paul. Really? I mean, that's all you can do. So I don't understand.
I just had a realization. Is Sami Zayn like the closest like to being? Is Sami the one? Is Sami the only one they've built up? Is Broitz right? Jay Hood? Oh, okay, yep, he's gone. Like, he's gone. Okay. Like, I just had this realization as he was talking about it. Like, who's it's Sami.
Facts. Like, I mean, what up, my dog? Come on.
Don't call me my dog.
All right, we got to speed through the rest of this show because that was a terrifying revelation. I don't know if Jay Hood's ever coming back. I don't know if he just quit the show. But it might be Sammy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrifying to think about. I wouldn't think about it anymore, Jay Hood. Let's go ahead and move on to news and notes.
All right, guys. Bodyslam.net is reporting that Matt Riddle was written off of TV because he failed a second drug test. He's on his way to rehab. The first failed test is what led to their SummerSlam change when they pulled the him and Rollins match off. Just to note, because it has been thrown out there, the WWE does not test for marijuana.
So what drug is it, Gabe Neitzel?
Who could say?
Well,
Who could say?
If you don't test for marijuana, then what else? I mean, do they test for steroids still? Doesn't look like it. Have you seen the guys in the WWE? Okay, so what's the problem? I mean, that's the way you write them off of TV. We talk about contenders. Is he a Tozawa type character, or is he seriously a contender for a singles championship? Well, he's not right now, is he?
Nope.
Okay.
And I can't imagine that if this report is true and he failed a second test, he won't be. Like he'll be a fun side character that they bring out and they sell the 420 bro merchandise and they'll have fun with that and they'll sell merch. But you can't trust him. You can't put a championship on him. I think they've learned that lesson with so many other guys that have failed drug tests over the years that they can't trust those guys, even if they want to build them, even if they want to even if those guys are hot. Like I think of, and it's unfortunate, right? Because dealing with substance abuse is unfortunate. But you think of guys like Jeff Hardy, you think of guys like RVD, where, hey, we want to build something around you, but now we can't trust you. They've been burned in the past, and I can't imagine that they put anything meaningful on Riddle after this.
But yet, Shawn Michaels still works for the company.
Yeah.
No, he's buddies with Triple H.
I hope the best for Riddle. And when we try to search and find like singles contenders, I mean, here's the thing: beside the histrionics and the 420 bro, that guy can go. He's an outstanding performer, but can't do it if he's not, healthy and clean. So,
well, also from a booking standpoint, remember he can't challenge Roman. They wrote themselves into that corner. Like he had the good SmackDown match. It's like, oh, if you lose, you can't challenge anymore.
I don't understand that. There was no reason for that stipulation. It's the Cody AEW stipulation that you never needed.
They had Cody on the roster. They didn't decide to consult with him. Like, hey, this is a bad idea.
Elsewhere, some WrestleMania news, WrestlingNews.com says the plan right now for WrestleMania 39, Brock Lesnar versus Gunther.
Yeah! You know what? Main event.
My chest hurts thinking about that.
Main event night 1.
Wow.
IC title or no? You know what? Guess what? Brock will put him over. He will.
As he should. And make it a title match.
Yeah, get it. Give me good 20 minutes. Big guys chopping the crap out of each other. Yep, I'm in.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I am all the way in on this. Like I am very excited. I am hoping that this comes to fruition because this would be an incredibly fun WrestleMania match.
Brock, he'll get a couple of those chops and go, "Wait a minute, real bro? This a shoot? Yes, again, come on."
Again. One of my favorite Brock moments is when he caught a stiff knee from Braun Strowman, and he's like, "Oh, okay, that's the way it's going to be," and straight up punched him in the face.
Yes,
Braun stumbled back, like he caught him good. It's one of my favorite things to show people. It is fantastic. You can Google it, YouTube it if you haven't seen it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, control that narrative, punk.
More details out on Sasha Banks, who reportedly has a limited appearance deal with New Japan that allows her to work with other companies. The deal reportedly makes her the highest paid worker ever for New Japan, making more than even Jericho made in 17 and 18 working for them.
But she's not promoted. They released the entire card for Wrestle Kingdom. She's not on there, which kind of leads everyone to believe that she'll come in with the one women's match that's on like after to be a challenger, right? Because everyone still assumes she's going to be at Wrestle Kingdom early next month.
Can you believe we're talking about Sasha Banks in New Japan?
I know.
It's pretty sweet.
I know, bro, it's Reddit, but I still can't believe it. Isn't that something?
So But it has us to the point where before the show started, Brian and I were talking about, okay, how do we order this and should we order it?
Right.
Yeah, we should.
2 a.m. Eastern. Get ready.
Yep. Well, Gabe and I are already up, so
Yeah, we'll be fine.
All right.
yeah, we should. Yeah, absolutely. And I have no problem reviewing that. It's their biggest event, and
Yep.
I think and I'm not watching it weekly. I read about it, but I hear that there are issues with booking, whatever. But to me, it's like anything else. You put in the ring, it's going to be fantastic. Right?
Well, I mean, that show already, we talked about it, like Kenny versus Ospreay. We assume there's going to be a Sasha Banks. And Carl Anderson now on it. Carl Anderson, who is signed to the WWE, will be on Wrestle Kingdom this year.
It's weird, isn't it? A little AEW action, a little WWE, all within the same pot. And Sasha Banks.
Well, isn't FTR's on the card, right?
FTR will defend their tag team titles. So, like, very
you got
weird.
Jay White versus Okada for the heavyweight championship. Like, there are a lot of really good matches on this thing.
Yeah, we're going to order that. We have to make a promise. Got to make a promise that we're all going to order this. We're going to make it a promise.
I got to figure out how. The only time I've watched Wrestle Kingdom live was to see Jericho and Kenny, and I watched that on Periscope. So I just got to figure out how to order it.
The sneaky stream of Periscope. Yes. I'm hearing that, just one little quick thing about Sasha. I'm hearing that she wanted, I don't know if that's Lesnar money. She wanted to, whatever it is, she could not come to terms with WWE. And Triple H loves Sasha because they're both in the Northeast, Boston, and he's like, okay, we can try to work out something. Apparently not. So if she's looking for like this huge figure, I don't know the number, but I'm hearing high in the sky, past Charlotte, around Brock money. It's like, you know what? If it didn't work out, once again, Indies, New Japan, you can find money anywhere. WWE is not the end all. She can go someplace else, and I'm sure the door will be open for her if she wants to make a return.
Well, I think you've mentioned in the past, Gabe, she's a big enough star now. She doesn't even need wrestling. Like, she can go other places and make that money, like working red carpets and things like that. So she definitely had the ball in her court, and now she's just going to do the things she wants to do, and that's going to include wrestling in Japan.
Yeah, I mean, reviews were pretty positive for her acting appearance on The Mandalorian, which is one of those Disney Plus shows in the Star Wars universe. So it seems like, yeah, she can do Hollywood, still wrestle on occasion. And yeah, she's a huge star. And I have no doubt that if she wanted Brock Lesnar money, she's going to figure out a way to make Brock Lesnar money, whether that's from WWE or elsewhere.
Yeah. Finally, in news and notes, a new AEW signing, Action Andrade, is officially AEW. For those of you asking who that is, well, you must not have watched last night, because he beat Chris Jericho on Winter is Coming at AEW Dynamite in his Dynamite debut. So Action Andrade, all elite.
Yeah, but apparently he's like 1-1 in AEW because he lost on Dark to QT Marshall, which is the first time Jericho saw him and went, oh, I'm going to put that guy over. I think he's a star, and then decided to go and do it.
You know what? What we saw last night was brilliant on a part of Jericho. It's brilliant. He can lose and still get over, and that's how great Jericho is. This all started, this whole idea was a George Scott promotion idea when Ric Flair was the champion, and they brought in this young, fresh-faced kid that had a Hawaiian look named Ricky Steamboat. He wasn't the drag, he was just Rick Steamboat. Here comes this guy from Hawaii, Rick Steamboat, and Steamboat beat Flair on television, which was a big deal at that time. Like, how does this non-title match, how does this young Rick Steamboat beat Ric Flair? And it happened out of nowhere. No one saw it coming. The more modern example is X-Pac and Razor Ramon. Mm-hmm. Even though I had saw X-Pac as, what was he in World Class? I can't remember. But I remember seeing him in World Class. I'm like, I know who that guy is. But for the WWE audience, they didn't know who he was. And he beat Razor Ramon. That did not surprise me because, again, I saw X-Pac when he was 18, maybe 17. Probably shouldn't have been wrestling that early in Dallas, but he did. But this was genius. This was genius because all of a sudden you start seeing this kid kick out of stuff, and it's like, oh man, the crowd was like, wait a minute now, hold on a second. Mm-hmm. And they were behind it. They was like, let's go Jobber. Let's go Jobber, right?
They were super into it.
They were super into it because they're like, okay, let's go Jobber. And they thought after a couple of those moves, okay, that's the move that's going to be 1-2. And he kicks out. And it's like, oh my God. And so that's one of the great moments, I think, this month, where Jericho gets over even in a loss.
The important thing, though, we talk about a lot with AEW, how do you follow up? Like, how do you keep pushing him up? And is he something, or just like, oh, yeah, that was a fun moment, like we'll see in 2 months?
Yeah, you won't see him again.
No, no. I mean, you won't see him again, but he'll be on dark or dark elevation.
Yeah, that'll be it for that. Remember that time he had that win against Jericho? Yeah, that's it. Never see him again.
That's rough.
It is time, boys. What do we have? I mean, match of the week's pretty obvious, right? Like we're just giving honorable mentions. I mean,
yes, that's what we do here.
Yes,
because I think we all agree. Like the double dog collar was number one, right?
You had a ref gushing blood. Like, how do you?
I was expecting. I was about to say at that point, after the ref was bleeding, I was expecting Mox to come out and be like, "Oh, guys are bleeding. Like, hey, I'm in on this." I was expecting Mox to run down.
That ref was gushing. Like, that was innovative. Like, yes, that was one hell of a match.
You know, we haven't seen that many dog collar matches, but that's the greatest one I've ever seen. It started with Valentine and Piper at Starrcade. That was the first one I saw. We've had very few, but you know one thing AEW does well? Dog collar matches.
Yeah, because Cody and Brody were really good.
What was it? It was Cody
and Brody Lee.
And
Punk
there's
MJF.
Oh yeah,
Punk MJF. Yeah.
They got that match down.
That
match, they do that very well. There hasn't been a bad dog collar match in AEW.
Nope.
It's something that's very rare in the business, by the way. Very rare where you can find a dog collar match. But that one we saw on Saturday was just tremendous. It's the best I've ever seen.
Yeah, and to do it as a tag team also, like to have both things going. I thought the camera work was awesome, like where you could see both. Like every part of that was amazing. Like we were talking about awards next week and match of the year. FTR, I feel like those two guys you can list like their own matches of the year is the most difficult part. Like forget everyone else. Like they could be their own category. Match of the year and then FTR match of the year.
That was a shame. That should have been the main event. Mm-hmm. I felt so bad for Samoa Joe and Juice Robinson.
Yeah. There was no following that.
And by the way, that match was terrible.
Yeah,
because I couldn't think of anything else besides the dog collar match.
Yeah.
like that poor crew that had to roll up that bloody mat and clean off those ropes after all that. Like that shouldn't have been a middle of the card. That was main event. I knew that was going to be the best match. It should have been the last match, but
everybody knew it was going to be the best match. Like everybody knew. Like they've delivered the previous two times, and now you're upping the stakes and going, "Oh, we'll make it a dog collar match." Like of course they were going to deliver. Like everybody knew that was going to be the best match.
I will say though, we talk about weird times. Like that show started 4:00 Eastern. Like I didn't watch it live. Like it's a Saturday, like doing stuff. Yeah. I'm glad I wasn't watching that at dinner time, like with the wife and kids around. I was like, oh, I'm sort of glad I waited to watch this. Like that was a little weird for anyone that watched that at 6:00 Eastern live. But whatever.
But the kids would have loved the giant swing finish.
Yes, that was
fun. And people, by the way, were killing that too. I thought it was brilliant. I
loved it.
It puts the giant swing over, right? Mm-hmm. If that's going to be your finish, if you get caught in that, and if you can't get out of it, you might as well tap out because it'll make you sick. And I thought that was great.
Isn't there a certain amount of irony, though, with that being probably the most sports entertaining move? And he puts over the sports entertainer is the one who taps out to it. And Claudio is this, he's the pure wrestler. He's not into that sports entertainment. But the swing is, I mean, it's the people's elbow. Like it's a sports entertainment move.
Yes.
That's why.
Not saying it's not cool because it is. It's just I find that interesting.
No, that's why Gabe Neitzel's a genius. because no one's brought that up. You see the symmetry there? That's a great point. Never thought of it that way.
So I think there are other matches though. Like as good as that match was, like I think we had a lot of good wrestling this weekend. Friday night, and I guess Mox is now Mr. Rampage. Like him versus Takeshita opened the show on Friday, and really Mox is again working Rampage against Sammy tomorrow. Like that was a damn good match. And the other, I have two, and I don't think I've ever done this. Two from NXT. Like Saturday night was a good show. The male Iron Survivor Challenge match.
I was about to say he's turning off his screen again. He's turning off his screen again.
I really enjoyed the Iron Survivor Challenges match. Both of them were really good. I like the male one more. And New Day versus Pretty Deadly. Jay Hood, you love tag wrestling? Go watch those guys. Go watch New Day and Pretty Deadly from NXT Deadline this weekend.
Pretty Deadly, Triple H and Shawn from 95. That's what they're doing. That's who they are.
They are. And now the New Day, the NXT Tag Champs.
I don't get it.
Okay. I don't know. Yeah, we named them all. I have Jericho Andretti as one of my top 3.
Okay.
Funny. Well, we haven't had yours, Gabe, but is MJF on your top 3? The match from Dynamite?
I don't. So no, it's not. I really enjoyed Rhea versus Asuka, and maybe that's just me, just completely enamored with everything that Rhea Ripley's doing right now. Like she is,
they're both great.
Yeah, she's fantastic. And again, it kind of ties into because she's on Raw and you have Bianca Belair on Raw. It kind of seems like they're heading to a collision course that ends at WrestleMania, which gives me no hope for the whole Alexa Bray Wyatt thing actually being something. But Rhea has been fantastic, so I would put Rhea on that. And then that Mox match was better than it had any business being on on a random Rampage. I don't know. I don't understand why they just decide, hey, let's just have John Moxley bleed on Friday nights. That's what AEW has decided to do.
Because the numbers suck. How about this as for an idea? Put some talent on Rampage. Oh, the numbers from Rampage are up. Well, no crap. Yeah, you put some talent on there. That's why the numbers are up on Rampage, because you put some good matches on there.
Moxley is Mr. Rampage. I mean, I guess to answer your question though, Jay Hood, like MJF and Starks was good last night. Like to me, the most memorable part was the rope break, just how innovative that was. Like when he's pulling him back and he's pulling back his leg.
Yeah.
I don't think it lived up to the promo last week.
Okay. It's a longer conversation, but I'll make it very brief. Guys, and this is for everyone listening. It's not just for the show. Everybody listening. When you see MJF wrestle, the close of his matches, the finishes are all going to be different. Sure, these are all 1970s. They're 1970s finishes. You saw after everything. Did you think it was going to end with a roll up for a 3 count? No. Because it's not him in the corner going ooh ah and then with a spear. It's not that. It's not WWE. It's MJF, and he's a crafty little guy, right? Guys, it's not gonna. It's going to be wrestling. It's going to be. He'll do the dirty tactics. He'll do whatever it takes to win. But for this generation of wrestling, that looks like an opening match. It was a fantastic match, but the finishes are not going to be like wait until he puts his finisher on, because that's not what MJF is.
So
that's why there's a disconnect for you.
Maybe, but I think he's kind of stolen that from Cody, because Cody, when he entered the Independents, had some matches like that. I think of the first when it was All In before it was All Out. And he wrestled Nick Aldis, and they did the 10 pounds of gold for the NWA championship. That ended with more or less a roll-up. Like, it wasn't a big finish, and that was something Cody was doing on the Independents and yes, he still has Crossroads, and he would hit that from time to time. But Cody certainly had a lot of moments in AEW and on the Independents where they ended in unexpected fashion.
Right. It's not going to be a salt to the earth finish every match. It's just not. And he's going to do dirty tactics to win. There was some mistakes made by Starks a few times.
Yeah.
As you saw. I mean, he almost dumped that guy on his head twice. So what happens? You don't have house shows. That's what it looks like, pal.
So you brought it up. So what happens to Ricky Starks now? Did we think he stayed hot enough and Bryan Danielson, chased off? Bryan Danielson raised his hand at the end of the show. Is Ricky Starks still going to be hot enough to potentially take on MJF again down the road?
If it was in WWE, yes. In AEW, I'm not sure. That crowd in Dallas was really hot for that. They're hot for a lot of stuff, but they were hot for that match. They were supporting Ricky. I hope that he'd be around the corner for another championship matchup, because I thought that the crowd helped Ricky be able to get another opportunity at that championship. That's the hope. But the way AEW is, who knows?
But I don't think they need to rush it. Like, I think he's still enough. Like, I mean, I threw it out last week, like him versus Jericho at the next pay-per-view. Like, that should be the move. Like, let him continue to rise, and you don't need to rush it. Like, I think he might have shown that maybe he's not quite ready, but he still, like, is there, and he still has some room to grow, which is the exciting part.
Absolutely. And we got a big show. Go ahead.
Yeah, next week, going to be a big show. We've got our awards. So what we're going to be giving out next week, we're going to be naming our GKW awards. We're going to have a male and female wrestler of the year, our match of the year, our feud of the year, moment of the year, event of the year, and our promotion of the year. We're going to be giving away all those awards. Excited to do it. Excited to talk about it next week